Hello and welcome back to Heart and Soul's Yoga Life channel. I'm Henrika, and today I want to discuss with you a bunch of signs that you might see in yourself if you're struggling with low self-worth. In this channel, we are generally talking a lot about activities to make you happier, to make you more fulfilled in your life, etc. Finding your needs, defining your boundaries, having your values clear, etc. And all of these things are signs of having high self-worth. It means to really know that you matter, to really be willing to know yourself at all, to know that your voice matters, to know that your opinion is being heard, to find a balance in giving and receiving in life, and basically consistently showing up as your own best friends in your life. So if you don't have that, what are signs that you are lacking in self-worth? Number one is you have an underlying sense of needing to earn your worth rather than owning it, meaning that you have to be or do or have certain things in order to be loved or in order to be respected. Love and respect should never be conditional, truly. And I mean, obviously in our society, in the workplace, we have to earn respect. In friendships, we have to earn people's trust, etc. But what I'm saying is this underlying sense that you are lovable just as you are and that you are good enough just as you are. If you're missing this, there might be a sign there that you are lacking in self-worth. Doesn't mean you don't have any at all, but it might not be as high as it can be. Number two, and this is very much a function of the first point, is that you are looking for validation outside. A person with a strong sense of self-worth will ask themselves if they are right or wrong, will ask themselves if they do or don't like something, or if it does or doesn't resonate with them. Whereas if you are lacking self-worth, you'll constantly be on the alert about what other people are thinking about you. And there's many different ways in which this shows up, so I'll share a few with you. Number one is this whole trying to fit in thing. People pleasing constantly. That can happen in the workplace or in private relationships. Likewise, we are constantly to try to do things so that other people will like you, sometimes regardless even of whether you like them at all. Like, I've seen people who've never even asked themselves the question of whether or not they like the people they are surrounded with. They are just per default trying to be nice and to please everyone and aren't being deliberate at all. Another way is trying to seek reassurance from others. So here you have people who are constantly needy of other people's kind of assurance or other people's validation, of other people's positive opinion. So this is when somebody keeps coming to you and say at the workplace, showing you, have I done this right? Have I done that right? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with this? When you're dating and somebody constantly needs you to validate that they are doing it right, that they are pleasant enough, that are beautiful enough, etc. It's something that is really uncomfortable when you're on the receiving end and you're constantly asked to give validation to someone else. So if this is you who is doing that, be really mindful that neediness is a sign of low self-worth. Another one is judginess, and this actually goes both ways. Both the fear of being judged by others, which is quite deeply ingrained in a lot of people, like constantly worrying what will other people think, what will they say, even like some people keeping their house super perfect at all times because they're worried if ever somebody shows up just by surprise, that they will have an opinion. Why would that matter? It's my place. And on the flip side of this, if you have grown up in this kind of judgy environment and you are very worried about how you will be judged by others, there's also the other side where you are judging other people as good enough or not good enough, as pretty as not pretty. So if you are the person who gossips about others and who constantly needs to share your opinion about what other people do or don't do, that's also a sign of low self-worth. So be careful around that. Very closely tied in with this is wearing a mask, meaning that you are almost like a social chameleon. You walk into a situation, you meet new people, you assess what they want from you or what they need you to be, and then you become that person. So you morph yourself into what you perceive other people want from you. So you're not actually having a clear standpoint around who you are and what you want. You are changing yourself around to fit in and please whatever environment you are in. And another one is this whole thing of not being choosy around the people that you want in your life. You're so busy worrying about what other people think that you are just constantly pleasing everybody else rather than being really deliberate and seeing like, do I actually like that person? Does that person actually matter for me? Are we a match in values? Are we a match in what we see in life, what we want in life? Before you are starting to extend yourself. So this whole complex of looking for validation outside of yourself instead of validating yourself. It's a very, very clear sign of low self-worth. The flip side of this, and this is sometimes not as easy to spot in people, is people who are demanding validation, who are demanding to be put first. It's like, don't you know who I am? A lot of us now are talking a lot about this whole topic of narcissism. So not everybody who demands to be respected is automatically a narcissist. There's a lot of talk around this and it's constantly being thrown around these days. So be very careful with these labels. It can, however, be a bit of a narcissistic trait if there is that need of other people having to validate them. And this can actually go in different scenarios. It can be the grandiose version where you have to be very showy, where you have other people love you, admire you, look up to you, etc. Always having grand gestures and dishing out big things like giving away the biggest gift, etc. So to be seen that you are special. But there's also the other version of the narcissist who is like the biggest victim of all and who will constantly talk about how they've been wronged by society, how they are the unacknowledged genius in the room, etc. and be kind of whingy and whiny about it, therefore still trying to gather attention. And much as that looks as if they're actually having a lot of self-worth and actually very full of themselves, that's almost like a mask that they are wearing on top of an underlying sense of really, really low self-worth. Because again, they are trying to derive their significance from making other people even smaller than they are, from even lower than they are. And they are deriving significance from outside because they don't sense it very much on the inside. So much as it looks like they are really tough and strong and big, they are actually often the smallest and most insecure people on the inside. Another different version of low self-worth is being a martyr. It very much ties in with this whole doing more for others, overgiving, oversharing, almost forgetting about their own needs or putting their own needs to the side in favor of somebody else. And while that on the outside might look like they are an extra good person, extra caring, etc., there is a difference there between someone who gives just out of the joy of giving and just out of the joy of caring versus who gives because there's an underlying hope of getting back. And they feel like if I just give more and give more, then eventually I'm going to be seen, eventually I'm going to get back. How you can see that often play out is after a longer period of time when they are coming back upset and going, after everything that I've done for you, you never do anything for me. You have never done that for me. And the kind of valid question, even though if it's uncomfortable to ask yourself if you are being the martyr, is, well, if you felt the relationship was too one-sided and you were always the giving one, why did you never stand up for yourself and put your foot down and assert your own needs? So you have given, in that sense, your power away, and taking it back right now is basically self-worth looks like you making sure that there is an equal balance between giving and receiving, between you putting something out and your own cup being filled as well. So it's really important that you do your homework there and stop thinking so much about what other people need and be much more closely aware of what you need and keep that balance. Another way of seeing that somebody has low self-worth is that they are struggling to say no. And again, this is all about boundaries, right? It's about being willing to risk being disliked, to risk being the person who disappoints someone else, to risk not pleasing someone else, because you are keeping those equal boundaries and you have a clear sense of where you end versus where another person starts. If you don't have boundaries, it's often because you are not really tuned in with who you are, where you stand, what's right and what's wrong for you, what's good and what's bad for you. So it's really important that out of self-respect, out of self-love, you draw a clear line between what is good and what is right and where you're not willing to go. And this can, for example, show up in your job, right? Like how many of you are constantly doing extra hours, are sitting there longer, are sometimes from colleagues taking on jobs that aren't actually theirs and are doing much more work than they should be doing, never able to quite say, no, hang on a minute, that's your job, that's not my job. Right? It's really important to learn to assert yourself and be willing to take that risk that other people might not like what you are saying, because that's okay. It's okay to sit in this conflict and assert yourself and be clear about what's okay, knowing basically that you're worth it also, that if you had to leave that scenario, that you're going to find another situation that's just as good, whether that's in a relationship or whether that's in a job, that this job or this person isn't the only person for you here, but that there are many others that might potentially, if you're not being treated well, actually resonate better with you. Another one is second guessing yourself. If you constantly find second guessing your own opinion and surrendering to someone else's stronger opinion, that's also a sign that you are not very big on self-worth. If you truly know who you are and where you stand, it's fairly easy and clear to have a clear opinion and hold that, especially if others don't agree with you. But if you constantly second guess and wonder, am I right? Am I wrong? Should I have said this? Should I have said that? If you ruminate in the evening at home about what you should or shouldn't have said, and you worry that what you said now might have big consequences, etc., if that happens as a once-off, that's fairly normal. But if that's a constant pattern in your thinking, that you are ruminating and second guessing, there's a self-worth thing right there as well. Another really, really big one is negative self-talk. And this is basically the bread and butter kind of work for a life coach. Most of us do have some level of negative self-talk, whether that's some beliefs that we hold from childhood, things that we've been told in past relationships, beliefs that we've taken on because of the society that we are in, or the spiritual environments, religious environments we are in. But someone with a high level of self-worth will be willing to question those beliefs and really assess, is this good for me? Is this actually true? Does that make sense? Does it serve me towards where I want to be? If you have low self-worth, you can talk yourself with your negative beliefs into depression, into anxiety, into social phobias, etc. So if you see those things, and I'm not talking about clinical anxiety or clinical depression, I'm talking about depressive phases or anxious phases and being worried about what everybody else thinks again here. Now, if you find yourself doing that a lot, really look at your self-worth underneath it. Start to reframe and start to learn to manage your own mind. If you can do that by yourself, that's fantastic. Sometimes it's as simple as listing all the negative self-talk that comes up for you. And then when you see it written out, right next to it, what would be a healthier belief to hold, or how you could reframe the things that you are telling yourself so that they are actually supportive of what you want in life, rather than holding you back from what's really important to you. Another really important one, and this is also very broad, so I'll just give you a few examples, is being unaware or not really tuned into your own needs. So how does that look? If you have low self-worth, it can show up in the way that you dress and you wear things that have holes or that are broken or that are dirty. It can show up in your bodily hygiene, that you are not really looking after yourself as much as you could. that you have a cluttered, dirty, untaken care of environment. Like people with low self-esteem will often have houses that are messy, that are dirty, that aren't really looked after. And I'm not talking about, not being perfect at all times, but I'm talking about people who are hoarding or who are just having dirt all over the place. There's a distinction there. Unaware of your own needs also means that you're not feeding yourself in a very healthy way, that you are not looking after your body and your health in a healthy way, that you're, for example, not going to the doctor when you are unwell, or that you're constantly just eating really cheap, bad food for you, rather than making sure that you're nurturing yourself and nourish yourself. It also means being willing to truly get to know yourself. If you have high self-worth, you are willing and desiring to really back yourself, support yourself, and constantly better yourself. So tapping into your needs, into your values, into the dreams that you have, learn something new, etc. These are all signs that somebody has high or increasing self-worth. If you're doing none of that and you just basically have given up on yourself, and you're just sitting in front of the TV all day, trying to zone out, not getting anything done, and staying in an, say, unhappy, uninspiring career because you basically don't believe you can do any better. You stay in an unhappy or abusive relationship because you think you can't do any better. They are all signs that you're suffering from low self-worth. Another one is staying dependent. So being in victim mode or in like the eternal child mode and not having fully grown up. So this is if you are financially dependent on your parents or on a spouse, if you are emotionally dependent on someone. Codependency is closely hooked into that whole topic. Basically, if you have an underlying sense that I can't live without that person, I can't live without their support, I can't live without this community. If you're fundamentally doubting your own ability to stand on your own 2 feet, low self-worth right there. So in that case, your homework is to start learning what it is that you truly need, to start learning to become independent, whether that's financially educating yourself, whether that is doing some training so you can find a job to stand on your own 2 feet, etc. Whenever you put yourself in a situation that you have to please someone, that you have to comply with someone, because otherwise your life might go down the drain, there's low self-worth right there. And lastly, and this is a simple one, but a quite telling one, you don't take compliments well. Someone says something nice to you, compliments you on the way you look or on an accomplishment you've recently had or on the work that you are doing, etc. If you are deflecting, if you're going like, that was nothing, or that was somebody else, or I could have done this so much better, etc. If you're not actually taking it in and being able to stand in that positivity and just say, you know what, thank you. I made effort for this and I'm so happy that you notice. If you're deflecting compliments, that's not a biggie, but it's definitely also a sign that your self-worth isn't quite as high yet as it could be. So I hope this has been helpful. If this is a reflection of who you are and if you feel that a lot of these points are hitting home, then you know your homework. You can watch these other videos here on our channel. You can start educating yourself. You can seek out literature that supports you. You can find yourself a life coach to work with. There's so many things that you can do to increase and improve your self-worth. It all starts with being willing to love yourself and give yourself the attention that you need to grow and to blossom and to flourish. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, or you have additional points of how to notice that somebody has low self-worth, please leave them in the comment section. If you like our video and our content in general, you can follow our channel. And as always, please like this video if you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your time and see you again soon.